any, just for the sake of looking back in retrospect and surviving the experience, do you have any like any huge failures looking back that you like?
Oh my
I'm
God.
glad I went through that, or some that you learned from that failure, or just that brush of just near death experience and bro.
Yeah. Well, losing my voice.
Yeah.
That we were kind of talking about that, but
Yeah.
I had and actors don't talk about this on Broadway because for a long time it's been shamed. If you get a vocal injury, people look at you and say, "Well, why are you singing wrong?"
Mm-hmm.
But actually, what it is that vocally, Broadway performers not only are they singing very difficult scores, but they're doing it 8 shows a week. Even some touring artists don't sing that much,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And their shows are only an hour and a half long. Our shows can be over 2 hours long, maybe up to 3 hours long. So you're talking about the Olympics of vocals here,
Mm-hmm.
and people get injured in the Olympics all the time. I'm a big sports fan. I love the Eagles, right? I'm always watching football, and I play fantasy football.
Right.
And every week you're just like, all right, which running back is it going to be this week? Which one's going to go down? Do I
Yeah.
have their backup? Who's got their handcuff? And it's expected, but for some reason we don't treat our vocal artists that way. We
Mm.
think that they're supposed to be resilient. And the truth of it is, most vocal artists have injuries. I mean, Adele had a massive injury. She
Yeah.
had to get, I think she hemorrhaged.
Sam Smith too,
Sam
right?
Smith. I mean, Julie Andrews, who we
Mm.
all know, everyone, you don't have to be a vocalist to know she has amazing technique.
Yeah.
She had a vocal injury. It just happens. It's part
Mm.
of the terrain. So you can make it worse for yourself 100%, which is what I did.
Yeah.
I had a terrible vocal injury because I had been working so much, which is, of course, a blessing. When you're singing stuff that's in the rafters and you're belting all that time, it can be really demanding. And if you're not taking care of yourself, which I wasn't, you can start to have problems.
And for all the people that out there that don't know what taking care of yourself means, as far as like doing vocals, what does that mean to take care of yourself?
It's different for everybody. And I think you have to do more things the older you get.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I mean, taking care of myself was like, okay, I guess I have to leave the bar by 1. But like,
Mm-hmm.
but now it's like, okay, I'm not drinking during this entire show,
Yeah.
which means a year. And I should probably be working out, and I should really stay away from inflammatories and dairy because that causes
Mm.
mucus. You think
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
these like all these things. I guess I need to neti pot, and I guess I should steam, and you know. So I had a huge breakup in my life. It was like a 5-year relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I had just changed jobs to work at Kinky Boots, and I had a flu hit me. I had the breakup hit me, and I was at my friend's weddings. I was drinking a lot, and then I drove back into town, and I thought it was a good idea to go right back into my show, and it just felt vocally weird.
Mm.
So I was doing the wrong things to take care of myself, number one. Number two, I didn't trust my intuition. I thought that kind of like a lot of athletes will, I can push through this, right?
Yeah.
Tried to push through it. After a week, I realized that like something was off, and I was even having issues like phonating on certain notes. So I would go to sing and there'd be nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. That's a really bad sign. Um, so
Like when you say that there was nothing, there was like a little bit of a voice, or there was just no voice, nothing at all.
no voice.
Holy shit.
No voice.
Yeah.
For a single note. So, you're playing your instrument, you get to this one string and suddenly realize the string isn't there.
Yeah.
Horrifying. So I went to a ENT, an ear, nose, and throat specialist. And it was one I hadn't been to before. And he didn't specialize in singers. Mistake number 3. I just went to a regular ENT. So he did, what they'll do is they'll scope your throat. So they get a little like camera on the back of your throat. It goes all the way back, and they can take a picture of your vocal cords. It's nuts. I've seen so many pictures of my vocal cords.
Comforting.
It's crazy. Well, fun fact about your vocal cords: looks like a woman's vagina. It does. You'll be like on the subway looking at like the pictures from your ENT, and suddenly you're like, everyone thinks I'm looking at
She's
a
freaky.
really
Yeah.
up close picture of vagina right now. Just vocal cords. So he didn't get a good shot of it, and he, like a lot of people do, assumed that I was just making something up in my head because I'm a crazy woman, or I was singing incorrectly. So he sent me to a new voice teacher. So I went to this voice teacher, and he was this crazy guy. He was very operatic, and like he just like by the end of the lesson was like, he's like, can I just make a physical adjustment? I was like, sure. He grabbed my chin and the back of my head and was like swinging it this way and that way and back and forth and was telling me to sing all these weird vowels. And I was like, this is wrong. So again, my gut was like, this is wrong. So I went to a different ENT because I was like, I don't trust this guy. The second guy I went to was this really holistic guy who doesn't
Mm.
like to use steroids. A lot of singers will use steroids to push through, which ends up being a big mistake because you can do anything on steroids, but you can't because it's a delicate instrument and you end up hurting yourself
Yeah,
even
that
more.
recovery time.
It's bad. It's a bad
Yeah.
idea. But sometimes you have to do it. But so I went to a guy who was anti those things, and he, even with the pictures of my chords, like I was saying, he scoped me, took the pictures of my chords, didn't see anything wrong, and he was like, "I think you just have like a post nasal drip, like push through." So I'm still in my show. I haven't left the show yet. I'm still singing this stuff, and it still doesn't feel right. And it gets finally to the point where there's like 3 notes I can't sing.
Mm.
And this is about a month after the initial guy. And I was like, I need to go to somebody else. I went to new ENT. He looked at my chords and immediately was like, oh, you have pseudocysts. I was like, well, that sounds horrifying. What are pseudocysts? He was like, pseudocysts are blisters, basically,
Ah.
on your vocal cords. And I didn't have one, I had 2, and they were directly across from each other.
Oh my God.
So when your chords, when you phonate, your chords come entirely, they get entirely together and they touch each other and they vibrate together. And that's how you make noise. But because I had these 2 blisters, my chords couldn't even touch. There was like a big gap between the 2 of them because these blisters were touching before my chords were touching. So that's why I couldn't phonate on certain notes because
Wow.
that where my chords hit
There's
was
a
where
cyst.
the noise for those notes were produced.
Gotcha.
So what I had to do was I continued in the show because I didn't want to lose money. But I had to immediately start going to speech therapy to try to get the pseudocysts to go down in size because, like a blister, they were full of fluid and you can kind of drain it if you're smart about how you're producing sound.
How would you drain that?
I don't know. Your body is incredible and it naturally will do certain things, but basically just by not adding added pressure to your cords.
Okay.
So I had to stop talking to a lot of people. I
Yeah.
had to stop staying out late. I really all I could do was wake up, warm up, stay quiet, do my show, go to bed, and go to my speech therapy. And so if you actually see my episode of Manhattan Love Story, it's right when I'm in the middle of my speech therapy. So I speak very well. I'm speaking
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
my voice the whole time.
Yeah.
Christine would be so proud of me. And with that work, I was able to get one of the blisters, the pseudocyst, to go away actually on the cord, but the other one didn't change in size at all. So after 3 months, I was in that predicament, and I said, all right, fine, go ahead with the surgery. The surgery was terrifying because they have to tell you before you go under that there's a chance, small chance, but there's a chance that you won't sing again.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's why I delayed it for as long as I did, because singing was my identification.
So just to backtrack,
Yeah.
you went to you were studying something different in college. You decided to change and go into theater. Did you know you had a voice like this when you were younger or no?
I did. Yeah. I've always done theater. It was always